Hi, I'm Spencer Christian. On this episode of Tracks Ahead, we'll take several unique Japanese rail lines to get to Hakone National Park. We'll look in on the recreation of a 1960s railroad in Southern California. And we'll visit with Gil Bennett, the heir apparent to noted railroad artist Howard Fogg. Let's venture into America's heartland, where we'll find an impressive display dedicated to, what else? Railroading. It's right along I-75, and it's worth a stop.
What bona fide rail fan could resist an attraction that bills itself as the world's largest train display? Located just north of Cincinnati, Ohio, we are about to discover the amazing world of EnterTrainment Junction. This 80,000 square foot repurposed warehouse is emerging as one of the nation's top attractions for model railroading fans and their families as well.
4 years ago, the idea came to me from a friend in our Garden Railway Club Society. And when he mentioned it, I said it couldn't be done. And as time went, I started to think about it some more. And the idea was to find the right place, the right location. The idea was to create an environment like a family entertainment center to attract all kinds of visitors, not just the train lovers, but to attract everybody. As you come into the facility, one of the things you'll notice is the streetscape, sort of taken a little bit out of Disney, and that is to create the environment where you're in a different world. Well, in addition to what you see here, which we have, the elements are basically on the EnterTrainment journey, the layout itself as you walk through time. We have a museum, American Railroading Museum, which basically is showing you how the railroads affected our lives in America. We have a 5,000 square foot Imagination Junction playground, which is interactive for the kids. And we also have an expo center, which currently is being used for the volunteers workshop, so you can watch them build, and eventually that'll become a toy train museum also.
But the real heart of EnterTrainment Junction is the breathtaking G-scale layout. Covering 25,000 square feet and reaching heights of a two-story building, the layout allows visitors to experience more than a century of railroading's colorful history.
We have three actually time eras that you go through. As you walk in, you'll have the early period of railroading, and we're showing the 1860s through the 1900s. And then you'll actually walk through tunnels and through some of the mountains, and you go into the middle period, where we have streetcars and interurban and steam locomotives. And then as you pass through the middle times, you'll go into the modern, where we have subways and diesels. In the early period of railroading, we have a Civil War, basically Union camp, where we have an artillery depot. We've got a river town along the river with a wharf. We have a logging switchback that works. And as you go through, we also have a coke oven, several small towns. And then when you go into the middle period, we have an industrial section, basically a city of the 40s, a coal mining town of the 40s, and we also have a yard, working yard that would be typical in the 40s also. In the modern period, we have a subway, we have a modern rail yard along with the modern city and some industrial sides also. We've actually got mountains that go through. You actually walk through the tunnels, the aisleway. There's 700 feet of pathways, and as you travel, we wanted to put the guest in inside the experience, sort of like a small world, and everything is around you. All the mountains, all the buildings are larger than your eyesight, so you never know what's around the next bend.
Any facility this large must have taken a great deal of technical know-how and a huge amount of labor to complete. We asked Trainmaster Larry Kale how he pulled it off.
Well, we have over 100 volunteers who have contributed to the building of the layout, and these volunteers have done everything from doing roadbed and track and building buildings and bridges and doing scenery and making trees and everything that goes into doing a model railroad. The volunteers have been doing. We are all G-scalers, we are all garden railroaders, but the manufacturers are producing trains now that are such high quality, they're quality models, and they go equally well indoors as they do out. And as we get older, the heat and the cold gets to us. Getting up and down off the ground gets to us. And so we thought, wouldn't it be nice to be able to build a large railroad in a climate-controlled situation where you could stand up and work on it.
This is indeed a model railroader's dream. With more than 2 miles of track and nearly 90 locomotives in operation, EnterTrainment Junction offers more running trains than most of us would normally see in a lifetime.
All the major manufacturers of G-scale trains are represented in this layout. We have anything that's available on the market, steam locomotives of all kinds, diesels, and these are all divided up into 3 historical areas, and they fit very nicely. So anything that you would want in the way of trains we have running on the layout. We have Aristocraft, we have USA Trains, we have Bachmann, and we have Heartland, and we even have a little bit of LGB. There is no centralized control center as such. Each track, and there are over 40 of them, are controlled by their own computerized controls, and these are distributed throughout the layout. The features that make this facility unique are not only the big train layout, but also the meeting and party rooms. We cater to kids' birthday parties. We have food, we have a hobby shop, we have a children's activity area, and we have a great train expo room which will feature train layouts and all the popular model railroading scales. We also have the Museum of American Railroading. Because our mission is to educate in addition to entertain, we thought the museum would be a logical addition. And the purpose of the museum is to show the role of railroading in American history and what effect it has had on this great nation.
I've always enjoyed trains, and this is a way to basically let everyone experience the trains and enjoy the trains. I know train lovers are going to love to come, but I wanted to build something that would attract all people, and grandmothers, kids, adults, anybody that's out there will enjoy coming to this family entertainment center.
For a century and a half, railroads have been an essential part of the American scene. We're grateful to the folks at EnterTrainment Junction for providing a truly delightful way to experience this technology.
Be sure to stop in as the exhibit is ever changing. Now, the Southern Pacific Railroad Corporation was incorporated in California in 1865. It was a major railroad carrier throughout its life, but was absorbed by the Union Pacific in 1996. Well known for its colorful passenger trains, it's back in operation once again, but on a slightly smaller scale.
Authenticity and attention to detail are the hallmarks of top quality model railroad layouts. You'd have to travel long and far to find anyone who does it better than Bruce Petty. In Bruce's Northern California home, he has meticulously created a replica of a section of the Los Angeles operation of the Southern Pacific Railroad as it was in the mid-1960s.
The layout represents basically my childhood years or my youth, teenage years in Burbank. Burbank Junction, Van Nuys, North Hollywood, the branch line, and it's something that I could associate with very closely because I was used to hang out at the Burbank Tower, which was the controlled the junction between the coastline and the valley line for the Southern Pacific coming into Los Angeles. And the tower operator himself was a model railroader, and that kind of also introduced me to the hobby. My layout is built as a shelf railroad, and it has uses real dirt. It's only a few inches wide, 18 inches wide in the widest spot, 8.5 inches wide in the narrowest. I wanted to model really interesting industries I've seen in Los Angeles. The ones that were around in 1965, some of these are on the branch line, some of these are in the San Fernando Valley. The Cyclone Fence Factory was in Glendale, California. It was a all-metal building, quite long, but I just modeled it as a low relief structure. This is the Scheller Feed Company that was out in San Fernando, California, out in the San Fernando Valley. I just got my driver's license when I was 18, and I had driven down the old San Fernando Road, and I found this building and took pictures of it, and it took me 45 years later to build it.
Bruce's quest for authenticity keeps him particularly busy when adding new stock to the layout.
I weathered my railroad rolling stock here with using latex wall paint. It's a flat base color, and this one here is particular is a medium brown. It's probably the best weathering substance you could find. Let's put a little bit on a brush and put it in, mix it with the water here a little bit, and I also added a little alcohol to the water before starting to make the paint flow a little bit better on the car.
All this attention to detail may seem a bit tedious, but make no mistake about it, Bruce loves to have fun too. He's mounted a tiny wireless TV camera in one of his boxcars that allows him to watch his trains move through the layout on a monitor and feel as if he were a tiny passenger himself, actually riding the rails through the San Fernando Valley of the mid-1960s. And while this may seem very high-tech, Bruce claims almost any modeler can easily replicate his effort.
This is a standard 50-foot Athearn boxcar. I took it, I made a camera car out of it by opening up a hole in the end. This is a standard nanny cam. It's color, it has sound. You can even get, when it's running, you get micro sounds off the railroad track.
To go back in time over 40 years and get a sensory feel for what no longer exists is something of a miracle. We can only marvel at the uncommon dedication and perseverance of individuals like Bruce Petty, who through their untiring efforts have helped preserve the memories of America's great railroading history.
As with all model railroads, Bruce says that this one will never be completed. He is already planning to expand. In a moment, we'll meet a professional artistrator who works in both oil and watercolor. He's noted for blending the expression of the artist and the technical detail of the illustrator, and is the heir apparent to noted railroad artist Howard Fogg. But first, we'll change gears and journey from the intensity of modern Japanese cities to the serenity of its lush countryside. We'll climb high into the mountains of the Hakone National Park to experience spectacular views of Mount Fuji, and we'll take several of Japan's most unique railways to get there.
Ever since the 9th century, the hilly hot spring town of Hakone has been one of the most popular tourist destinations in Japan. There are enough sights to explore in the area to make it an enjoyable excursion for several days. To fully experience the Hakone region, we take 4 railways, including the Red Romance car from Odawara to the Hakone Lake region, an electric line from Yumoto to Gora, a funicular from Gora to Sonzan, and finally a ropeway or ski gondola from Sonzan to Owakudani. After a flight into Tokyo on Japan Airlines, the Japanese National Tourist Organization recommends that we take a half-hour ride on the Shinkansen Green Line to Odawara. There we purchase a Hakone free pass. For less than 5,000 yen, this pass offers unlimited use of the Hakone Tozen railways, as well as ships on Lake Ashi and many buses in the Hakone area. We ride the Red Romance car on the Odakyu line to Hakone Yumoto Station, which is at the end of the line. This is where the trip gets more adventurous. Using our free pass, we board the Hakone Tozen Tetsudo train to Gora. This leg of the trip is known for its steep 8% grades and very sharp curves. The braking system includes special carburetor drum brakes for emergencies.
The train runs over curves of 30 meters in radius. In order to prevent wheels and track to be worn and to reduce the squeaky sound, drivers operate the switch to run water over the rail. There's a safety brake beside the ordinary brake. It is manually operated by pushing a switch, and a stone called carborundum will be pressured over the rail to stop the train. There's a handbrake too. In 1888, it started as Hakone Horse Wagon Railways from Kotsu to Yumoto. It was expanded then from Hakone, Yumoto to Gora in 1919. The width gauge of Odakyu and Hakone railways are different. We use one rail together, but not the other one, because Odakyu is 1,067 millimeters and Hakone Tosen is 1,435 millimeters. Therefore, Odakyu runs narrow ones and Hakone runs wider rails.
Some of the trams use vintage rolling stock. If the first tram you get is full, you only have to wait 15 minutes to catch the next one. Starting in a wooded valley, the Hakone Tosen tram slowly crawls up the mountain, changing directions at 3 switchbacks, and offers dazzling views around every corner. The most popular season to take this trip is during June and July, when the hydrangea, or ajisai, along the tracks are in full bloom. But the scenery is breathtaking throughout the year. Once they arrive in Gora, many adventurous travelers take the funicular to Sonzan, and then the ropeway to Owakudani. Owakudani is known as the Valley of Great Boiling. It is here that you can really understand the origins of this landscape. The entire area lies above the remains of a collapsed volcano. Although this particular volcano has not been active for several thousand years, the strong scent of sulfur and the sight of misty plumes of steam are reminders of Japan's volcanic geology. There are plans to extend the ropeway to Lake Ashi, where we take a boat ride on a pirate ship. On a clear day, you can gaze up at Mount Fuji's snowy peak, and you'll also behold the bright red floating torii, or gate, to Hakone Shrine, a majestic architectural treasure that stands as a symbol of the link between Shintoism and the natural world. When we're back on shore, it's the perfect time to take a break to visit the Lalique Museum. Known for his exquisite glassworks and perfume bottles, René Lalique was a 19th century French artist who was greatly influenced by Japanese artistic sensibilities. Although most people are rather surprised to see such a comprehensive collection of Lalique work here, it makes a lot of sense. In the late 1800s, when Lalique was at the height of his artistic expression, Japan was ending a long period of isolationism. The Western world became enchanted by Japanese art and architecture. Lalique was no exception. Now known as Japanism, Japanese-influenced work had a great effect upon the Belle Epoque era. Simple natural motifs, a subtle color palette, and delicate lines characterize the art glass that Lalique produced during this time. There is a connection to railroads here, as the museum features one of the original cars from the famous Orient Express. Lalique designed the glass panels for this lush interior, which conjures up visions of mystery and intrigue as visitors explore this place of railroad history. A visit to the Lalique Museum offers a relaxing respite to a busy day of traveling and puts us in the perfect state of mind to explore the Hakone Shrine and walk along lush paths to contemplate the rich heritage of Japan's imperial era. From the breathtaking natural scenery to the ancient shrines, our trip to the Hakone region is one we'll not soon forget.
One of the foremost railroad artists today is Gil Bennett. In addition to watercolor and oil original paintings, Gil's work adorns calendars and boardrooms across the country. Gil started drawing and doodling when he was just 2 years old, but he never really considered a career as a painter until his college years. Studying to be an architect, Gil took a class in oil painting, and when he found out that he needed another major, he picked fine arts. To put himself through school, he would sell his homework, much to the dismay of some of his professors. People wanted his work even then, and he eventually took a class in watercolor, in which the professor had a different idea.
I had a watercolor teacher, a professor that taught me how to watercolor after I had, in my last year of my schooling. And he told me, if you can sell anything, it's fine. So I would go in with my assignment, he would grade it, I'd take it to a show and then sell it. And so it worked from there. And after I graduated, between my bachelor degree and my master's degree, I went to a show in Arizona, and a corporation CEO saw my work and ordered 30 paintings for his board members. And from that time, I've been painting steadily ever since.
Gil considers his paintings to be time machines. He is too young to have seen all the steam, and in talking to his clients, he has the opportunity to pick out what they experienced, filter it through his mind, and produce an image on canvas or waterboard. And that applied even to his own father in his high school experiences with the Salt Lake Bamberger Interurban Line.
Well, he would used to tell me about his school and his senior go to Lagoon Day, and they would take the Bamberger, and they'd all go down to the station. He said there were guys hanging out the windows, and the guys would pull down the traction arm so the train would lose power every once in a while, and the conductor was just having a heck of a time. And something like that is it's a fun story, and I was able to put that on canvas for him. And so we have the Bamberger coming out of going out onto the station. They're coming out of the station, going on to Third West. All the guys are hanging out the windows, they're waving to each other, and it's just something that I never witnessed myself, but have the opportunity through a brush to do that.
Early in Gil's career, he became friends with renowned railroad artist Howard Fogg. That friendship blossomed into career tips and instruction as Howard became Gil's mentor.
I had a good relationship with Howard Fogg. I met him for the first time in 1984. And from that time, he took a liking to me. He would call me Young Gil when I called him on the phone. I imagine old Gil would be Gil Reed. So he would call me Young Gil, and every time I was over in the Denver area, I would stop by and we would converse a little, either on phone or I'd go over and watch him paint. And I asked him many questions like, how do you get your watercolors so they don't wrinkle the paper? He says, come down here, let me show you what you do.
Gil was such good friends with Howard that upon his death, Howard's widow asked that Gil complete Howard's last painting. About half completed, Gil was able to match Howard's work and complete the painting. But his association didn't stop there. Gil has acquired a reputation for repair.
And then in later years after his death, there were people contacting me from across the United States that said they had a Howard Fogg painting, and something had either been scratched or the Clodfelder collection had been stored in an attic in North Carolina and had molded. And so I got a call one day and said, is it possible to fix these? And I said, well, I'm not sure, but let's give it a try. And so I've probably fixed about 30 or 40 Foggs.
Gil sells his material through his website, gilbennett.com, and has a line of Christmas cards. And calendar art continues to be a popular outlet for Gil.
Calendars are a unique niche, I should say. One calendar, they say, send us images. So I send 30 or 40 images, and they pick from the images something to go with the various seasons. Another company has, for their corporate office, they have the original for the corporate office and use that image for the calendar of that year.
Gil considers his painting to be more than just a day-to-day job. He considers it to be a learning experience.
Again, going back to Howard Fogg, he told me if he quit learning every time he painted, then he would quit. I found that to be true. Ted Rose also said that same thing. He says, I learn when I paint every day. I don't learn every day, but there's occasionally where I will actually stumble across something and it makes that painting just mean something more special to me. than it does for, you know, I'm sure the client's happy with it no matter what, but it's something that changes the way that I paint. It makes the painting pop more, it's more exciting.
Gil prefers oils as he thinks that the final paintings have more punch. That's it for this episode. Be sure to join us next time for more Tracks Ahead.